Hey everybody, this is Andy with Patterson Adjuster Training. In this video, I continue my conversation with Charles, who is a new adjuster but has had tons of training. It shouldn't be comfortable because it's not going to be 65 degrees when we go out on our roof. It's going to be hot. We're going to be standing in the sun. So we appreciate this being real.
And I would say that, for some, if you're going to be a field adjuster, you 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 can't expect, like you said, you can't expect to be in 65-degree weather. You cannot expect to be fully comfortable. What you should be doing is, okay, let me go ahead and start, getting climatized to the weather. Let me go ahead and get adjusted to that. Let me figure out what's my game plan. You know, if I'm going to do 5 roofs today, well, guess what? I need to make sure I'm hydrated. How do what's my hydration plan? Start being able to identify, hey, am I having heat stroke?
Yeah.
Start to be able to self-evaluate. How do you identify that you're actually about to pass out and roll down the roof that you don't want to roll out? So yeah, having the realness of that for me was fine. I actually, yeah, it was hot. I'm like, okay, it's hot. Guess what? It's going to probably be hotter in some other locations. It's going to probably be 100% humidity because we just got, if it's a hurricane, guess what? It's going to be humid, be
Yeah.
hot and humid. So guess what? It's not going to be comfortable. So how do I keep myself comfortable?
Yeah. And one of the things that I kind of admired about you, and it just speaks to the kind of person you are and speaks to how serious you're taking this, is I made these little boxes to sit on the ridge. So when people get hot or tired, they can sit down. That way, if I'm showing them something, they can sit down and just watch me. Well, I told you, I said, Charles, you can sit down if you want. And he's like, no, I'm getting acclimated to the roof. And so you were walking around the roof getting comfortable with it. I thought that was pretty cool. But then I got to thinking, unless you get on a live roof or a real roof, you can't really simulate the not the danger. Oh, yeah, I guess the danger of falling off. And so you were wanting to get acclimated to just walking around and navigating on a roof. I thought that was really neat that when you told me you didn't need to sit down.
Uh, the Cougar bars I was wearing when I first got up on the roof, I did not tighten them up enough. And so as I was walking across the roof, I definitely felt uneasy. And I'm like, okay, this is not going to work. I need to tighten up these Cougar paws so that I can be comfortable. Yeah, they were comfortable when I put them on, and I was like, wow, these are great because I'm used to walking around in tennis shoes, and so I've been on the roof in tennis shoes before, and that's totally different. And so now I'm wearing Cougar paws. It's something that it's going to be needed a lot more. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I need to tighten up. And so once I, got off the roof and tightened up my cooking paws and then eventually got back up there, I'm like, oh, this is good. I'm good now. I'm walking around, going where I need to be, and I can just stand and balance myself just right. I'm like, okay, this is good. Let's go. Let's go on some steeper.
Yeah, because I think the roof of the slopes on that house is a 712 and a 612. But even still, having cougar paws on gets you used to wearing them, and because the pad that you have the soles of the cougar paws, but you also have those pads which are about a half inch thick, and so you're up a little higher than you normally stand. It's almost like standing on platform shoes, and getting acclimated to those before you get that first deployment, I think, is key, and it's something I noticed about you. Something else that I didn't expect was the lady that was there with us. She got on the roof super slow the first time. She was unsure of herself, but then when she got on the roof the second time, she went up much faster. And she was even saying, I'm so much more comfortable getting on the roof the second time. Just that muscle memory on and off a roof, because that's the most dangerous part of roof inspections, getting on and off the roof, transitioning from the roof to the ladder. And you can't get that doing virtual training or if you're standing on a mock roof that's a couple inches off the ground. I guess it's because the danger factor isn't there. But speaking of your cougar paws, what equipment would you recommend somebody getting before they get that first deployment? Not necessarily every piece of equipment that they need, but just picking up some equipment now while they're still doing some training. What would you recommend? And you're a cybersecurity expert, so do you have a personal pick on brands of computers?
So I will say this. First of all, first and foremost, don't try to get everything at one time. Don't do that to yourself. I mean, unless you're just flush with money, don't try to get everything at one time. Have a game plan and try to do this over some time. And so the very first thing I would say that you're going to need is a laptop. I have a Dell. It's a higher end Dell for what is needed, but because of who I am and what I do, this is something that I am more comfortable with. But I had a son who just graduated, and I did buy him a laptop, and it was also a Dell. And so I would say that you need a laptop that can run Xactimate. So you need something that with like an i5 processor with at least 8 gigs of memory and at least 512 gigs of a hard drive. And if it gets a solid state drive, that's even better because it's going to move a little bit faster for you. Now, if you want to get more than that, then that's fine, but it's a good start. Say the next thing is ladders. You need two. If you're going to be a
Hmm.
field adjuster, you need two ladders. You need one that's at least 14 feet and another one that's at least 22 feet. You want to be sure that they're both rated type 1A, which means that they can hold at least 300 pounds of load. And if you are someone who is, 150 pounds, 250 pounds, uh, second ladder that you're going to pull up is going to weigh close to, 40 to 50 pounds. And so you need to have a ladder that can take that initial load. Uh, Cougar paws, Cougar paws, Cougar paws. Uh, get something that's going to be comfortable. Uh, they are definitely needed. They're
Hmm.
very not going to keep you from falling off a roof, but they can at least, you know, get you to a point to where it's less likely. You need a distometer, a laser distometer, something that I have both a Bosch and a Lycra. Uh, some people like one versus the other. I say I have both of them because at least that way, if one goes down, I have the other one as a backup. Flashlight. You need flashlight. That's definitely needed because as you're trying to identify some damage, if you ever looked at your walls in your house or apartment, where are you at, with the lights on, you can't see some of the imperfections in your wall. But if you turn the lights off and you shine that flashlight against that wall, you can start to see some of the imperfections. And so that's going to help you out a lot more. Tape measure. Tape
Yeah.
measure is definitely needed. At least a 30 footer, uh, but 30, 35, even get 100 meter, 100 foot tape measure, especially if you're going to be on roofs. Those will also help out. And I would say the last thing, especially if you're going to be on a roof, chalk. You're going to need that because as you're on the roof, you're going to have to start labeling the roof and marking off some of your test squares. So you definitely need all that.
Yeah. And chalk is also fun to play with on sidewalks. So the last question I had for you, Charles, and let me just preface this by saying I just getting to know you a lot better on Saturday. I think that you have a bright future as an adjuster. And so where do you see yourself in 5 years?
See myself on quite a few IA firms, but mainly on their short list. My goal is always to be on the IA firm short list, meaning I'm one of the first three people that they call. If not the first, at least we're in the first three. This is not just a job or a career for me. This is almost a lifestyle.
Hmm.
As cybersecurity, this is, the work that we do is becomes a lifestyle. This is something that I enjoy doing. And so for me to go out there and do this would be great. And in the meantime, I will continue training.
Well, hopefully there's some IA firms listening. And so Charles was probably on your roster, and I got to know him Saturday, got to know his background quite a bit. I think he's got plenty of training. He just needs a deployment. You need to get Charles deployed because I don't think you'll be disappointed. But anyway, I appreciate you coming on the call with me, Charles. I know you're busy, and I appreciate you taking some time to give your perspective on what steps you've taken so far. I think you've approached it right. You're not one of these people who say, okay, I got my license, I'm ready for a deployment. You started over a year ago doing this the right way, planning it out, and almost like a roadmap. And so here you are a year and a half later, and this is one of the busiest storm seasons that we've had in a while, from hail and wind and tornadoes. And from what I hear, it's going to get even better or worse, depending on which perspective you're looking at it from. If you're homeowners on the Gulf Coast, it's probably going to get worse because of the hurricanes. If you're an adjuster needing some work, it's probably going to get better. We don't want anybody to get hurt, but we do appreciate the work. But anyway, I wanted to thank you for coming on. So as you can see, Charles has had tons of training, but he's done that strategically. Even though he's technically a new adjuster, he's a veteran when it comes to training. He wants to give himself the best possibility of success when he gets that first deployment. So if you need training now, because once you get that first deployment, it's almost too late to get trained up to know what you're doing. Anyway, guys, I hope that video helps. I will see you in the next one.